Okay, good day, everyone. So I'm here to discuss questionnaires, the test of validity and test of reliability. But before that, I would like to clarify some issues on sampling. So this is the topic that we had last time. Okay. So the first issue would be there's no available population size. There is no data for the population size. So as we all know, as we recall, we use the Rao-Soft in determining your sample size. And for us to be able to get our sample size, we have to input our population size. So what if yung study natin is hindi natin, wala tayong data, wala tayong information kung ilan yung population. Okay? So if you recall, dun sa paggamit natin ng Rao-Soft, if you will be increasing your population to a very, very large value, you will notice that the sample size is set to 385. So, taasan niyo pa ng taasan yung population size niya, nagiging fixed na siya sa 385, hindi na siya tumataas. So, this could be one option, na pag wala kayong population size, then you can just set your sample size to 385. So, that means using the Cochrane's theory, the minimum sample size required would be 385. Okay? Pero kung sa tingin niyo 385 is too much, then you can have other options. Okay? You can have other alternative. So meron tayong other softwares which we can use. So to demonstrate, okay, ang tawag natin dito sa software na to ay G-Power. Okay? So dito sa G-Power, you don't need to input population size, but ang hinihingi dito would be kung ano yung statistical treatment na i-apply nyo. Okay? So you can only apply this one if your study is a quantitative one. Okay? So for example dun sa study ninyo, ang gagamitin nyo is t-test. Okay? So naka-default na kasi ito sa t-test. Makikita nyo dito, t-test. And then, dito sa statistical test, suppose you are comparing the customer satisfaction of two hotels. So that would be the means. This is determining the difference between two independent means. So we choose that one. Okay? So basically, pag gagamit ka nitong program na to or software na to, yung G-Power, ang hihingin lang sa'yo, yung statistical treatment or method na gagamitin mo dun sa study. Okay, dito tayo sa may babang part. Effect size, we don't change that one. That is set to 0.5. Also with your margin of error 0.05, the confidence level to 0.95. Yung ratio natin, this is kasi ini-estimate lang natin yung ratio ng respondents natin dun sa Hotel 1 and Hotel 2. So sabihin na natin na halos pareho lang yung number of samples or respondents natin sa Hotel 1 and Hotel 2. So ang proportion natin is 1:1. And then enter nyo lang. Okay? So yan. So dito sa may right side, sa lower part sa right side, may makikita kayo dyan na total sample size. So you have 176. So estimated number of respondents sa group 1 or hotel 1 would be 88. Sa group 2 would be 88 also. Kasi nga 1:1 yung ratio natin. Pero hindi naman to strictly followed na dapat equal yung respondents natin. So pwedeng hindi sila equal basta ang total ng dalawa would be 176. So this will be your total sample size. Okay, so this will be an alternative if you don't have your population size. Okay? Okay, let's go back. Okay. So, another issue sa sample size if you're using a non-probability sampling method. Maraming mga studies ako nakita wherein non-probability yung method nila and yet gumamit sila ng particular formula in getting their sample size. Okay? So, if your study would be using non-probability sampling methods, hindi mo kailangan gumamit ng sampling formula. Okay? So, you can just subjective ang paggamit mo ng pagpili or pag-set mo ng sample size. Okay? Pag non-probability sampling. Kasi ang sampling formula, usually, this is only used for random or probability sampling methods. And then the third one is, if your study is a qualitative one, ibig sabihin ng qualitative, uh, magkakanda kayo ng interview or magkakanda kayo ng focus group discussion, in that case, in those cases, you don't need to compute for your sample size. I mean, you don't need to apply the Rouse, the Cochrane's software, or other formula in your sample size determination. So, ma'am, ilan po ang kailangan namin na respondents if you will be conducting an interview or an FGD? Okay, ayan. So if you will be conducting a interview, specifically a key informant interview, all you need is 20 to 30. Okay, respondents. Meron tayong sources dyan, itong sa study ni Creswell, kasi usually ang mga panelists tatanungin tayo. Okay, if you will be setting that to 20 to 30, what would be your, what's your sources for this? Okay, so ito po. All you have to do is just indicate your sources for that. And then if will be conducting focus group discussion naman, then all you need is 6 to 12 per group lang to easily transcribe information. Okay, 6 to 12 per group. Again, we have these sources from Basnet and from the study of Morgan. Okay. Okay, so meron din dito from ang author nito is Frank Noljak and Norman Wall from their book How to Evaluate Research in Education. Meron din silang sinet dito na sample size. So pag purely descriptive daw yung study, you can set your sample size to 100. If it's correlational, you can set it to 50 respondents. If it's experimental or causal comparative, experimental ibig sabihin hindi human being yung pag-aaralan natin kundi animals, let's say rats, bats. Okay, so all you need would be minimum of 30. Okay, 30 samples. Okay, so that would be the issues on sampling, sampling. Okay, so now let's go to the use of your questionnaire. Okay, so let's have these different methods of data collection. So we have your direct or interview method, you have your indirect or questionnaire method, registration, number 4 observation method, and then number 5 experimental method. Okay, suppose you're going to use questionnaire or you're going to utilize research instrument in your data gathering. That's the second one. Okay. Okay, so the first one, so there are actually three types of questionnaires that you can use. The first one is a standardized questionnaire. When you say standardized questionnaire, it has already been validated and pumasa na siya dun sa test of reliability. Okay? So ano yung mga examples ng mga standardized questionnaire? So meron tayong standardized questionnaire to measure stress, perceived stress. This is the PSQ questionnaire for stress measurement. Okay? Itong questionnaire na to, it has already been validated. Okay, meron nang ginagamit nito ng mga researchers. Okay? Dumaan natin na to ng particular process wherein um, na-check na kung ang mga items ba to are attributes of stress or perceived stress. Another example would be this one. So this is a self-test for anxiety. Again, this is a standardized test in measuring anxiety. And we also have the social anxiety scale. This is another questionnaire developed by Dr. Michael Leibowitz, a psychiatrist and researcher. So this is another example of a standardized questionnaire. Okay, so you can make use of this one kung meron available. Okay, what if walang available standardized questionnaire? Pero dun sa related studies na ginamit ninyo, meron kayong questionnaire na nakita na pwede nyo i-adapt dun sa study nyo. Then, you can adapt that one. So the second possible questionnaire na pwede nyo gamitin would be a questionnaire adopted from related studies. So example nito, for example, we have this questionnaire na nakuha natin sa isang study, okay? So, kunwari, itong question na to is from a related study. You can adopt this questionnaire, pero pwede nyo, not necessarily na lahat nitong mga indicators na to gagamitin mo. So, pwede mo tong i-modify in such a way na you can remove some of the items which are not important or not relevant, and you can change some of the items. Pwede mong i-restate. Okay? Um, So if you will be adopting questionnaire from related studies, make sure na isa-cite nyo yung author na this questionnaire is adopted or revised is adopted and the original author is this one. Tapos i-mention nyo na lang dun sa under sa methodology ninyo sa research instrument na nag-modify kayo ng ibang items. Okay? So this is an example of a research instrument na from a tourism study na pwede nyong i-adapt. Tapos you can just um, revise or modify some of the items. Okay? Okay, so going back. Okay, so the first one is standardized. The second one is questionnaire adopted from related studies. Okay, what if wala kang magamit na standardized and then dun sa mga related studies mo, may mga questionnaires pero hindi siya applicable dun sa study na ginagawa mo ngayon. So wala kang ibang option kundi gumawa ng sarili ninyong questionnaire. Okay? So if you will be doing your own questionnaire, dapat dumaan siya sa dalawang proseso. The first one is test of validity and then the second one is the test of reliability. So I have here an example of a questionnaire. Okay, so when do we say that the questionnaire items are valid? When do we say that the questionnaire items are reliable? Okay, so a questionnaire cannot be valid without being reliable. However, reliability does not depend on its validity. So I'll discuss these two terms later. So this is an example of a questionnaire constructed by students. Okay, so ang study nila is on the emergence of beach resort developments in Barangay Penitenci, Ruma, Camarines Sur, Republic of the Philippines, change impacts and opportunities. Actually, this is just an excerpt of their questionnaire. So kinuha ko lang yung first part. Isa sa mga objectives nila, the first objective is to determine the present condition of the existing beach tourism industry in the barangay using the 5 A's in beach tourism. So, kinuha ko lang yung first part, which is the arrival. Okay. So, ginawa nila itong 6 items na to. Itong 6 items na to, when you construct your own questionnaire, make sure na yung mga items ninyo are literature-based. Okay? Nanggaling sa literature, nakuha nyo sa theory, it should be anchored from a theory or, yun nga sabi ko, literature-based. So, ngayon, itong 6 items na to, kailangan duman ito ng test of validity and reliability. Okay? So, wag muna kayo magkakandak ng data gathering kung hindi pa validated at hindi pa pumapasa sa test of reliability ang questionnaire natin. Okay. So ano bang nangyayari sa test of validity? When you say valid, survey questionnaire is valid if the items or the indicators or the constructs are attributes of the variable that we intend to measure. So going back, kung valid ito, dapat yung items natin 1 to 6 describes the variable arrival. Okay? So, ito yung mga attributes ng arrival. So, that's what we mean by validity or valid. So, validity is the extent to which the questionnaire measures what is it is intended to measure. So, there are 4 types of test of validity. The first one is phase validity. Phase validity is a subjective assessment of the items of a certain variable. Pag sinabi natin subjective assessment, it is just based on your opinion, okay? Na sa tingin ko, based on experience, sa tingin ko, ito yung mga items describing this variable. So, it is a subjective assessment. It is a poor test of validity actually, kasi nga subjective siya. The next one is construct validity. When you say construct validity, yung mga items natin or indicators are based on a particular study or literature. Okay? So example, ito po. So you have this, ang study is on adoption of digital technology in business. So yung second column natin, ito yung indicators. Yung first 3 indicators natin, I believe that adopting technology by my business is a wise decision. I believe that adopting technology is helpful to my business. And I believe that digital applications are effective marketing tools. Itong first 3 na to, dito sa second column, kinuha siya from this, is based on the study of Harrison et al. Okay, so this describes the attitude on the adoption of digital technology. So meron tayong basihan na literature. That is a construct validity. Okay? So they are based from a particular literature or for particular article. Okay, so same din yung mga susunod na indicators natin. Nakalagay din dito sa first column kung saan sila kinuha or derived from. Ayan. Okay, the third one is the content validity. Ito yun isa-suggest ko na gagamitin niyo pag magpapa-validate kayo. So what happens sa content validity? Sa content validity, you choose at least 2 or 3 experts that will validate the contents of your questionnaire. So sino-sino tong mga experts na to? Sila yung may mga experience na sa research. Okay, researcher na sila dun sa mga, specifically dun sa field na pinag-aaralan ninyo. Okay? So what do validators usually, ano yung task nila when they validate the questionnaire? So tatlo lang yon. Given the items or indicators, they will indicate kung accepted ba siya. Okay? Second one is, kung may accept, the items could either be rejected, di ba? Pwedeng i-accept, pwedeng i-reject. And kung hindi naman siya i-accept, hindi naman siya i-reject, ang third na pwedeng um, option would be to revise. Okay, so tatlo lang naman ang i-indicate dyan ng validator ninyo. It's either i-accept, i-reject, or i-revise yung item na yon. So that's content validity. Usually yan ang practice sa research ngayon, sa mga estudyante ngayon na gumagawa ng mga thesis saka mga dissertation. So when they want their questions to be validated, they use content validity. So they choose experts to validate their questionnaire. And then the fourth one is criterion validity. Ang criterion naman, kino-compare yung questionnaire mo sa isang validated na questionnaires wherein may mga particular criteria. And then, after nun, kino-compare kung na-meet ba ng questionnaire mo yung mga criteria nung questionnaires na already validated and has already passed the test of reliability. So may mga basis, may mga criteria. So usually this type of test of validity is seldom used. So madalas ang ginagamit is either the construct or content, but I suggest we use the content validity. Okay, so that is checking the validity of your questionnaire. So for example, validated na ng mga experts ninyo, okay, ng mga validators, and then you have already incorporated their suggestions, ang next step niyan is iraran natin yung questionnaire nyo sa test of reliability. Okay, so ano naman ngayon ang test of reliability? When you say test of reliable, survey questionnaire is reliable if it measures the same way each time it is used under the same condition with the same subjects. So we're talking here of internal consistency. So reliability is the ability of an instrument to measure consistency. So consistency describes the extent to which all the items in a test measure the same concept. Okay, so it is reliable if a person's score on the same test given twice is similar or highly correlated. Ayan. So there are various tests of reliability, but of this 5, I will only focus on the Cronbach's alpha kasi yun yung popularly used na test of reliability. So dito sa Cronbach alpha, usually ang acceptable value ng Cronbach alpha ranges from 0.7 to 0.95. Okay, so dapat ito yung makuha natin na value based on this author. Okay, may mga cases kasi na mahirap achieve yung 0.7. So, usually sa based from experience, meron akong isang nagpa-consult sa akin na hindi na talaga namin kahit ilang beses namin i-revise yung questionnaire, palaging below 0.7. So, what we did is that we look for sources wherein nagsasabi na acceptable yung 0.6. So this is one, if you're gonna stick with this range na 0.7 to 0.95, you can just cite this author. Okay. So yung sinasabi ko kanina, ang ginawa namin is naghahanap ako ng author na kino-consider yung 0.6. Okay, below 0.7. That's 0.6 to 0.8 as acceptable value of alpha Cronbach. Again, we have these references. So, yan. Provided naman yung references niya. So, reliable naman siya. Okay, so Cronbach alpha can handle any combinations of dichotomously and polytomous scored items. So hindi lang siya yung mga questionnaire na 4 yung options, naka Likert scale na 1, 2, 3, 4. Pwede rin siya yung mga dichotomous like mga yes or no, true or false, or polytomous scored items. So pwedeng hindi lang 4 or 5 scale. Maraming mga options sa mga answers. Also, Cronbach alpha is rooted in the tau equivalent model, which means alpha should only be computed for items that measure the same construct using the same format and same scale. So for example, you're measuring this particular variable na apat yung areas niya. Okay? Ay, sabihin na natin yung sa tourism na may 5 A's, arrival, accommodation, ganyan-ganyan. So, dapat consistent siya. Dapat yung 5 areas na yon, ang options niya would be the 4 Likert scale. So, hindi pa pwedeng sa arrival nga niya, naggamit ng 4 Likert scale. Pagdating dun sa susunod na area, nag-true or false siya, that becomes dichotomous. So, hindi pa pwedeng ganun. So, dapat consistent yung format and same scale. Okay, so this is another sources natin dun sa Cronbach alpha. Again, you can make use. Again, makikita mo dito yung 0.6 to 0.7, it's doubtful. Based on this source. Pero since pinakita naman natin kanina na may reference naman tayo na sinasabi ng 0.6 acceptable, then you can just cite that particular author. Okay. So paano po ba i-run for reliability test? So ang kailangan mo lang is 20% of the samples or 30, whichever is higher. Okay? Pag magra-run. So kung baga, magda-dry run muna kayo para isa-subject yung result na yun sa test of reliability before you will, for test of reliability. Uh, para makita natin kung reliable ba yung questionnaire. So, hindi napakarami ang kailangan natin. Ito lang, 20% of the samples or 30, whichever is higher. Okay, so paano ba mag-run ng data sa reliability test? Okay, so introduce ko sa inyo ngayon yung Jamovie. Okay, so ang Jamovie, ito po, okay, so this software is a free software at hindi siya nag-e-expire. Okay, hindi siya nag-e-expire. So, ang first step natin dito is i-import natin lang yung data. Okay? Okay, so by the way, this is the questionnaire if you, ayan. Diba, ito yung questionnaire natin. Okay, balikan ko lang yung questionnaire. Ito yung questionnaire na ginamit natin, di ba? Yan, ito yung questionnaire natin. So, um, yung area on arrival has 6 indicators. So, ang kailangan lang natin, niran na kasi nila to, ito yung data na gagamitin natin. Okay? Ito lang, kunin lang natin yung sa data ng arrival. So, the dry run is conducted to 20 respondents. So, this is how we could tally the data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the indicators under arrival. So, ito yung respondent 1, ito yung mga responses nila for each indicators. Okay? So on so forth, from the first respondent to 20. So, ganyan lang po. So, this is the data that we're going to use na raran natin sa Jamovie. So, going back to Jamovie, how do we start? Okay, so, okay, sorry. Ayan. Okay, so, in-import lang natin yung data. So, ito na yung lumabas dyan. 1 to 20, and then you have these 6 indicators. So, click lang natin yung factor and then reliability analysis. Okay? And then, check natin sa baba yung Cronbach alpha. Okay, yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the indicators. So, pasok lang natin dito sa right box, isa-isa. So, take note, habang pinapasok natin, may nangyayari dito sa may right side. Okay, pasok natin lahat. 6. Ayan. Okay? So, initially class, makikita nyo, okay, dito sa taas, yung scale, ang lumabas is 0.160, 0.16. So, ibig sabihin, bagsak. Kasi ang kailangan natin is, di ba sabi natin, target muna natin ngayon is at least 0.6. So, hindi siya pwedeng, hindi reliable yung questionnaire natin. But if you look at the table dito po sa baba, tingnan nyo yung pinakamataas na value. Ang pinakamataas na value is, yung indicator for daw is 0.5008. What does this mean? Yung 0.5008. Ibig sabihin, pag tinanggal natin yung indicator number 4, item number 4, tataas yung Cronbach alpha sa 0.5008. Okay? So, let's do that. Okay, tanggalin natin yung number 4. Ayan. Ayan. Notice na, yung Cronbach alpha natin tumaas sa 0.501. 0.501. Pero again, ang ka-target natin is 0.6, di ba? So, tingin tayo ulit dito sa baba. Okay? So, anong susunod na tatanggalin natin? Okay? So, it's the indicator number 3. So, ibig sabihin, yung 3, hindi siya relevant indicator ng arrival. So pag tinanggal daw natin to, tataas ang Cronbach alpha sa 0.659. Okay? So let's do that. Tanggalin natin yung number 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 5, 6 na lang. So matitira na lang class would be the indicators 1, 2, 5, and 6. So tingnan nyo yung Cronbach alpha, it increased to 0.659. Okay? So ayan. So going back, kasi ito yung una na pag-run natin, di ba? Ang lumabas is 0.16, tapos titingin tayo sa baba, tatanggalin natin yung 4. Nung tinanggal natin yung 4, ang naging result is 0.501. Pero again, ang target natin is 0.6. So we look at the table below. Ang tatanggalin natin is indicator 3 kasi para umakyat or mag-increase yung Cronbach alpha. So yan. So, reliable na yung questionnaire natin. So, that means, yung final questionnaire natin, class, tatanggalin natin itong 3 and 4. Itong may mga naka-highlight ng purple. Okay? So, ang attributes natin ng arrival would be the indicators 1, 2, 5, and 6 lang. Okay? So, yan. So, this time, dumana siya ng validated na siya. Reliable, test of reliability, pumasa na rin siya. So, ito na yung magiging final questionnaire natin. Okay? For um, under arrival. Ayan. Okay. Okay, so ang next concern natin would be how to organize your data. So suppose, 'di ba, nag-conduct kayo ng survey and then your next step is na-collect mo na yung mga na-retrieve mo na yung mga questionnaires. Your next step is how are you going to tally your data? Okay, paano ba mag-tally ng data? So suppose we have this sample questionnaire here. Okay? This is another questionnaire na sa tourism. Okay, so this is on exploring the transformative learning experiences of students who have completed an internship in a farm tourism sites. Okay, pakita ko lang yung questionnaire. Okay, ito yung questionnaire. Lahat ng mga naka-red, those are your variables. Age, gender, under personal profile. Under professional profile, you have the work agency, nature of work. Okay, under the main part, yung mga questions, yan, naka-highlight lang ng red. So these are your variables. Yan. Yan. Okay? So, naka-red lahat ng variables. So, paano tayo magtatali? For example, na-retrieve mo na lahat ng questionnaire mo and then you're going to tally the results. Given those variables, kung ilan yung number of variables natin, yun din po ang magiging number of columns natin. So, ito na yun sa tallied data, sample tallied data. Ayan. Okay, so actually we have here marami tong respondents na to. 223 respondents. So makikita nyo sa first row, andyan na po lahat ng mga variable. So this is how we tally your data. Okay? Ito kasi pinaiksian na lang kasi imbes na yung buong statement yung ilagay, nilagyan na lang ng code. Okay, lahat na yan dyan. And then, lahat yan ng variables nasa number, kung ilan yung number of variables, that would also be your number of columns. And then, paisa-isa. Si first respondent mo, 31 and above siya, female, married, employed. Lahat yan i-input mo. Okay, so mahirap pag pag nagtali ka na ng data. So, lahat i-input. Hanggang dun sa pinaka-last mong respondents. Okay? So, this is how we tally your data. Okay? Isa pang concern sa pag-data organize is pagdating sa profile of the respondents. In profiling the respondents, you'll always be asked to prepare or provide a frequency distribution table. What do we mean by frequency distribution table? For example, if you're going to describe your respondents according to gender, given this data, ang frequency distribution table, papakita mo lang doon ilan yung female, ilan yung male, ano yung corresponding percent nila. Okay? So, in our in our PowerPoint, we have this. Okay, for example, ito lang, konti ko lang para madali. Suppose you have 25 tourists and then you're going to prepare a frequency distribution table for that. So all you have to do is just count your female, count your male, and then put it in a table. Take note ha, ang frequency distribution table may tatlong columns. The first column is for the variable, gender. The second column is for the frequency or the count. Nakalagay dyan kung ilan. And then the third column would be the equivalent percent. So, meron tayong 11 na male, which is 44% of the total, 44% of 25, or the total respondents, we have 14 female, which is 56% of the total respondents. Okay, how do we compute for the 44%? Okay, di ba ganun lang siya? 11 divided by 25 times 100 is 44%. Sa female naman, how did we obtain 56%? That's 14 divided by 25 times 100. Equivalent to, 56% dapat pala, sorry. Okay, pero ang final frequency distribution table natin dapat ganito. Okay, meron siyang title ng table. Okay? Tandaan na, may title ng table. So, dito ang title natin is Profile of the Respondents by Gender. You have the table. So, dapat naka-table siya. May column, may rows. Okay? May column, may rows. Meron tayong heading for each column. So, for the first column, you have the heading titled Gender. The second is Count. The third is Percent. And then naka-draw ang table natin. And it's important that you provide a short description of the table. Kasi hindi lahat visual learner. Kailangan meron pa rin description or discussion kung ano yung nasa table natin. So we can say, this is one of the examples how to prepare your description. You say more than half of the respondents are female. They comprise 56% of the total. So only 11 or 44% of the respondents are male. As simple as that. So this is the activity that you will be doing in your next this will be your next activity, that is providing frequency distribution table. Again, there are three important things that we need to provide. First is the title of the table. Okay, this one, table 1, profile of the response by gender. And the table itself, dapat naka-table, may rows, may column, may boundaries, okay, which contains first column is the variable, second column is the count, third column is the percent. And the third part would be the description. 2 to 3 statements will do. Okay? Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Good luck to your next activity.